My dog has died. I buried him in the garden, next to a rusted old machine. This stanza symbolizes how he does not need a special burial spot, and he does not need to be honored in over-the-top fashion, purely because he is special in the owner's heart. Someday I'll join him, right there, but now he's gone with his shaggy coat, his bad manners, and his cold nose. And I, the materialist who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being. I believed in a heaven I'll never enter. Yes, I believe in a heaven for all dogdom, where my dog waits for my arrival, waving its fan-like tail in friendship. This stanza shows parallel structure with the connection between his shaggy coat, his bad manners, and his cold nose. It also shows repetition in the lines, I believe in a heaven I'll never enter, and yes, I believe in a heaven for all dogdom. I believe that Pablo Neruda was trying to have us question why we believe in heaven at some points in our lives and why we don't believe in other times, and in why sometimes we need to believe in something in order to get over another tragedy.
I'll not speak of sadness here on earth, of having lost a companion who has never survived. His friendship for me, like that of a porcupine, withholding its authority, was the friendship of a star, aloof, with no more intimacy than was called for, with no exaggerations. He never climbed all over my clothes, filling me full of his hair or his mange. He never rubbed up against my knee, like other dogs obsessed with sex. This stanza expresses the dog's companionship. The dog was natural and real. He was also in his own world. He had the potential to hurt the speaker, but he never did. No, my dog used to gaze at me, paying me the attention I needed. The attention required to make a vain person like me understand that being a dog, he was wasting time. But with those eyes so much purer than mine, he'd keep on gazing at me, with a look that reserved for me alone, all his sweet and shaggy life, always near me, never troubling me, and asking nothing. This stanza shows that sometimes a person's presence, or a dog's presence in this case, is all we really need. The dog spoke through his eyes, not through his words. How many times have I envied his tail, as we walked together on the shores of the sea in the lowly winter of Isla Negra, where the wintry birds filled the sky, and my hairy dog was jumping about, full of the voltage of the sea's movement, my wandering dog sniffing away, with his golden tail held high, face to face with the ocean spray. This stanza just illustrates the fact that dogs don't need a lot to be happy. They just need a simple life.
Go.
Joyful, 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 as only dogs know how to be happy, with the autonomy of their shameless spirit. This stanza shows that because animals have less intellect, they have less worries, and they're just naturally happier. There are no goodbyes for my dog who has died, and we don't now and never did lie to each other. So now he's gone, and I buried him, and that's all there is to it.
Behold the porcupine. Let's pretend this porcupine is fierce. Well, in this poem, the porcupine is used as a simile. This poem says that the dog is like the porcupine, because the porcupine is withholding its authority. In other words, this dog could be rude and mean and unkind and potentially hurt its owner, but instead the dog is loving and kind. So one of the metaphors in this poem is an aloof star, the dog being the star. The owner knows that the dog is always there, just like a star, even though the star is sort of aloof, off in its own world. They're not very intimate, yet like the dog, their relationship is very close. So the overall tone of this poem is nostalgic and sad. The speaker wishes his dog was still there, and not only that, he realizes he didn't really truly appreciate his dog, and how his dog was so bliss and ignorant, and his ignorance was his bliss, and he was just free and happy with no worries. So this picture sort of shows one of the themes of the this poem, and what it is, two young people, happy holding hands, they're all innocent, whatever, but they're not super intimate. They're not on top of each other to have a good relationship. The relationship is potent, but simple. So overall, this poem tells us not to take anything for granted, no matter what you have. This speaker feels he took his dog for granted, and he's very upset by this. And intimacy, like from our friends in the picture, holding hands, yay, happy. Intimacy does not define a relationship, and a relationship can be simple and powerful. So the dog sort of represents ignorance is bliss, in the sense when they're talking about him jumping on the beach, he's all happy. He's less intellect, so he can just be happy, no worries, whatever. And he also represents, simpleness, obviously, and purity of life. And overall, everything does not have to be extravagant to be special, and you don't have to be over the top crazy just to honor a person.
In our video, the happy dog doing silly things is a symbol of the free spirit in the dog in the poem. In the poem, the dog is living a carefree life and loving the simplicity of the life that he lives, just like the dog in the video.
In the poem, there are some examples of repetition and parallel structure. To show this, we replayed a scene of a dog playing fetch. The scene emphasizes the dog's joy in the simple things in life.
The music that we chose in our video has the same tone as the poem. It's bittersweet. Both the video and the poem have the dog kind of like living a happy life and in that remembrance, but it ends with a revelation that the dog is dead and the owner can do nothing about it.
Go. As the video progresses, the dog ages. The dog begins as a puppy but slowly grows older. Towards the end of the video, there's a photo of a grown dog looking at a sunset. At the very end of the video, there's a photo of a man mourning the loss of his dog. This shows the progression of life up until death, just as the poem introduces death and looks back on life.
We wanted to symbolize how dogs tend to be more pure than people. People tend to be corrupted by the experiences that they have in their lives, and they tend to have bad feelings towards other things that make the bad things occur to them. And therefore, dogs tend to be more pure, and their soul tends to be more pure because they don't hold on to these horrible things that happen to them.
Overall, this poem is about a man who took his dog for granted. Looking back, this man realizes how much his dog meant to him. This poem also shows that relationships don't need to be complicated. It shows that you shouldn't take anything for granted. And it shows that intimacy doesn't define a relationship. A relationship can be simple, yet powerful at the same time. The dog in this poem symbolizes simpleness and purity of life. Everything does not have to be extravagant to be special. And that's all there is to it.